Hey, everybody. Dave Cooper and Jennifer. How are you doing today? How come I'm always off screen? She takes up so much space all the time. So welcome to another edition of Building Modular with your host, Jennifer Cooper and Dave Cooper. So Jennifer, what are we going to do today?
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, everyone. As you know, we've been talking Building Modular for 9 weeks now.
9 weeks.
Yeah, and we're in the finishing stage, the site restoration and finishing stage. And today we are going to be talking about MEPs and mechanicals and all the good stuff to get that power turned on.
So everything that happened after the set is what we're talking about for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you do the day of the set, the day after the set, and the days after the set is what we're going to talk about?
That is. And we are going to do a quick review of what some of the things we talked about last week, because they continue to apply to the whole process, every step of the way. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I love it. So why don't we hop into this? Everybody, thank you for watching. Tell us where you're from. Hit that like and share button if you're watching from anywhere, even if you're right down the street. And the sharing is always the big part. We want to get as many people involved in our Building Modular series as we possibly can. And for those of you that always consistently tune in, we really, really do appreciate you. And thank you very much for that.
We do. I mean, this whole series was kicked off with, really inviting people into the world of offsite construction, giving back, sharing some of the knowledge that we've gained over the years, and really inviting people who are traditional site builders into this new way. Offsite construction offers a ton of advantages. We're firm believers in modular construction.
Very firm, by the way, just to clarify that.
Right. But really, let us know. Are you a builder? Are you thinking about building using modular construction? Mm-hmm. Are you a factory? Where are you in the world and in terms of the process? And please do share this with traditional site builders.
Yeah, for sure. Get it out there. Site builders, architects. This is all about knowledge base. And once we get through this, we'll do deeper dives into particular portions of this whole broadcast that we're doing in modular, whether it's residential or commercial. So with that, ask questions. This is an interactive conversation. We typically try and hold the questions to the end, but that's okay. If you got something and it pops up on our screen, we will look at it. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So thanks everybody for joining us. All right, Jennifer, presentation time. Yeah, what do we have here? Where'd you go, Jennifer? All right.
There it is.
So here we have it, right? We're building modular. Oh.
Yeah, that would help.
Go there.
So this is a chart many of you have seen. It's on a couple of different websites and floating around there. And it really shows one of the biggest advantages to offsite construction, specifically modular construction. Right now, we already covered the installation and we're talking about the site restoration. But this is where you see that big chunk of savings in terms of time. And as we all know, time is money. So, and the other thing we should talk about is we had Tom Coronado on recently.
Speaking of money, show me the money. Tom Coronado.
Yeah. You all had a bunch of questions about financing modular construction. So we heard you and we had Tom on. So please check out that conversation. If you didn't tune in for it, check out Tom and his big cowboy hat and all of the information and why time is money and how you can save.
What was that, last Wednesday already?
Oh my goodness.
They start running together. I think that was last Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to find it if you just type in Dave Cooper and Tom Coronado in the search. And when it comes up, it's going to come up empty. You got to hit the little button that says content, and then it'll take you right to it.
Yeah, so check that out. So
perfect.
Yeah, so this is where we see that big savings between offsite construction and site build construction. So let's.
Yeah, and I think we even have another chart further in that is going to talk a little bit about this further and show more visually what it is. So go for it, Jen.
Yeah, so last week we talked about the 6 S's and how important it is to kick off your on-site work embracing this system. This is meant to be a habit, and that's why we're talking about it again today, because this carries through every day, every week that you're on the job site. So pop quiz, who knows what the 6 S's are? Sort, set in order. I know, right? Shine, standardize, sustain, and safety. Never has safety been more important than today.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And we're not just talking job site safety. Now it's hand washing safety, what you touch safety, rubbing your nose safety. So hopefully we're going to be back to the new norm here real soon, whatever that new norm is going to be. But now there's more safety issues than previous. So, but that's okay. Love it. All right. Jumping in.
We are.
Inspect and check. My favorite portion of this whole thing. Listen, people, we need to inspect and we need to check. We always, when we get stuff from our manufacturer, whoever is building the product, you want to make sure all your ship loose items are there, your windows, your cabinets, your doors, countertop fixtures, anything is there that you have as a ship loose that you ordered because it needs to be site installed for whatever reason. You need to do that within the day of or days of setting the unit. But also during the set and thereafter the set, when it's even safer, you need to be checking to make sure everything's plumb and square and make sure that it was set right before your set crew leaves, not after they leave. You want to make sure you're taking a look at these things, because if you want to make any adjustments or, you know, somebody made a human error, it can happen. You want to check on this now, not after everybody's gone, because then it is 110% your headache. So
what are you recommending? That we take a jar of marbles and throw them down on the floor? See that everything is.
If you're part of my world, that's about what happens, right? And then we got to call the foundation guy if they start rolling.
Right.
But we're checking everything from the foundation. We want to make sure our sill plates and everything are tight. You know, steel beams, whatever it is we're setting on, has to be flush and level because it just compounds up. So step number one, always check your ship loose items. You're in for plumb, square, and level.
Yeah. So I think we'll see that on the next slide also. Oh no, another important factor, again, every step of the way, if you're not using a digital tool, if you're not using a cloud-based tool that everybody has access to, if you're still on paper, you're still on email, definitely you want to be talking to your trade partners, making sure your schedules are all locked and loaded. If there were any changes to your set day, or, you know, if the set went longer, or you had weather, or, you know, if it pushed out a day or two, or pushed up a day or two, that happens sometimes as well, where we pull it forward. Just reconfirm with your trade partners. It's all about the scheduling. Yep.
It really is all about the scheduling. And if you're a one-person crew out there just doing one or two homes a year, you don't really need a scheduling software. But if you are doing multiple houses and you want to grow, then highly recommend definitely getting it. If you're in commercial construction, if you don't have it, well, I don't know what to tell you at that point, but you should. All right. All right. So confirm schedules with trade partners. The house is there. We need to make sure everybody's showing up. Step number one, and everything that we always do, and we have pre-construction meetings with our trade partners, and then we have the day after the set crew is gone construction meetings. Absolutely. You will be amazed at what comes first, the chicken or the egg, when everybody gets together and starts talking about it, because no single job is the same. We have it all scheduled out. Everybody can confirm their schedule. We can look at weather. We can look at all the different variables. This is going to set the tone on how your job rock and rolls to completion.
Right. And so we do have a list of different partners here on the slide. You know, your excavator, foundation contractor, the bulk of their work has been done, but there's still more to do, especially if you have a superior walls foundation or precast concrete, right? There's more work to do after the home is set. So you want to make sure that that is all lined up. So that's why they're on the schedule, and for other things as well. Your plumber, your electrician, and your heating and cooling contractor definitely are the major players here.
MEPs.
Yeah, absolutely. And roofing and exterior cladding. Most times, you know, you're 80-90% weather tight when the home arrives, depending on
it depends on the home, but can it be 80%? Yes. Can it be more than 80%? Absolutely. It depends on if it's like an ADU and a one bedroom type thing. But on average, it's probably somewhere between 70 and 80%.
Right. And so you do want to make sure you have your roofing and your exterior cladding all lined up. You had already ordered your materials. They're all there and available. And then once you get inside, you know, obviously finish carpenters, flooring, drywall, because there will be some drywall work that needs to be done. And then that finishing work, right? Painting, landscaping, all that good stuff.
Puttying nail holes. All right. Now, this was the other look that we wanted to get into prior to getting into some of more of the nuts and bolts. On that left side, and yes, I know you can't read it. On that left side is a typical traditional site built construction timeline.
Right.
On the right side is our modular construction, offsite construction timeline. You can just see visually the difference that there is. And if anybody has any questions on it, write them in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. And like Dave said, this wasn't meant to be legible. It really was just meant to showcase
A visual.
Right. How much shorter and how much more concise and consolidated the work is on site, because so much has been done in the factory. Your cabinetry, your countertops, all of that, so much of that has been completed. So you can just cross that right off your checklist, your Gantt chart, if you will, that you would have been doing normally in traditional on-site construction.
100%, 100%. Okay, modular versus site-built construction, Jennifer. How is it the same?
So no different. Any good builder, any good contractor is going to be inspecting and checking for the quality and craftsmanship of the work done performed by their trades.
Right.
You have to inspect that work if you're the GC. And, even if it's your own crews doing it, it's your name, right? This is your reputation. Always be selling. This is your showpiece. This is how you get those referrals and everything else. So no different from a traditional site builder. You're checking all of the work, making sure it's to your level of expectation, and it's to the level that you and your client agreed to. That's what's important.
100%. I mean, it all comes back to you and your contract with the customer and what the expectations are and what was set. So just make sure that you check the quality of craftsmanship. We went over this a little bit last week. Touch everything. Rub your hand across every piece of surface. Painted cabinets may look pretty, but when you touch them, it could be rough because they oversprayed or missed. There's things you need to do that you want to know now and up front. So I see there's a spoil alert, and I think the spoil alert is an automated thing that pops up normally when we're doing the keynote live, right? Mm-hmm. Your manufacturer, is that capital IS, your trade partner?
They are your trade partner.
They are.
Right? They're your number one
100%.
Trade partner. So look at the quality of their work, look at the craftsmanship. If it is to the level that you both agreed to, if this home represents what you've seen them produce before or have seen in their factory, then you're good. But if it's below your expectation in terms of what the manufacturer typically produces, then you need to call them out.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And just remember, I mean, they're hiring people all the time. They have the same trade issue that everybody in the field has. And I think that's really important to understand. You're placing an order, and yes, you are the manufacturer's customer. But in the end, you guys are partners, and you need to work together if you really want this to be successful, because there's going to be push and pull in this relationship. And I think that's very, very important to understand.
Absolutely.
All right. So modular construction versus traditional, how is it different? Did we just do this?
Well, we touched upon it.
Yeah, you're confusing me.
No, we're good. We're going to get into it. So
you have the faster, right? Go for that. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So how is it different? We talked a lot about checking for plumb and square, inspecting all mate lines, marriage walls, and connections. That's different. Your traditional on-site builder may not be doing that to the level that you are with off-site modular construction.
Yeah, for sure. And like it says at the bottom, the faster you find things, the faster you report things, the faster things get resolved. Let's say there's a cabinet warped, a door or a window that broke. That could be weeks and weeks and weeks to get a new one shipped and delivered to you. So find this stuff, put in your service requests, your RFPs, whatever it's going to be, and get it out the door.
Exactly.
All right.
Right. So we did talk about some of the not added work, but the different work between traditional site built construction and modular construction. Just wanted to remind everybody about the major advantages to modular construction and why we encourage so many people to come into our world over here.
Yeah. Well, listen, we set a house that's 70, 80%, could be even more than that, complete in one day on the foundation, right? We're weather tight. We have fewer on-site people, crews, liabilities less. There's shorter build cycle, and there's definitely less risk
Absolutely.
in modular construction, not only for you, but for the bank.
Absolutely.
That's why the banks love it.
Right.
Right.
There's instant equity once that home is installed on the foundation. It's set,
Yep.
it's connected. You're close to being fully weather tight. You have fewer trade partners on the site. There's less risk of somebody getting hurt. There's less need to manage social distancing.
Yep.
It's a shorter build cycle. And all of these are advantages definitely for the builder and the client, no doubt.
Mark Willie's going to love this next one. I know Mark Willie's listening. He's always listening, the bearded man. Bare naked Mark Willie, I think is what he goes. Right? So listen, low carbon emissions, right? There's less waste. It's a healthier, more sustainable way to build. And I'm sure we can even get more healthy. Right. But we're off to a good start just by using offsite construction as a starting point.
Absolutely. And for those third-party certifications out there, in terms of, we talked about that with Mark last week on BS Fridays, Building Science Fridays. These are healthy, sustainable buildings. They are. Better to live in, better to breathe in, more energy efficient, one step closer to earning those certifications, those third-party certifications. And it just makes for a healthier life and living, right? We were talking last week about the sneezes and the sniffling all by the drafty windows.
Yeah.
Modular construction is a great way to combat that.
100%. Jennifer Berry. Hi, Jennifer. Sorry, I just saw you pop up. With all these new systems, stuff pops up in different areas.
My gosh.
So ask us questions, Jennifer. We'll be back to you here at the end. All right, moving into it. Did I go too far?
Did we skip one?
Not sure.
Well, we are talking about, no, we're good, actually.
Good.
Yeah,
Right.
we're talking about the mechanicals today.
We are.
So we're good. We're there.
All right. So all about mechanicals, right? So what you're seeing is a picture here. They were just installing the mechanicals, getting the plumbing lines, getting the vent lines run in. When the house is set, like we talked about, the first thing you need to be doing is meeting with your MEPs, right? Your trades. Now, this is a traditional site build home. It's going to be different in a commercial structure. But as you can see in this picture, we have our furnace already set up. We have all of our vent lines, our stacks. We have a on-demand Navian water heat. I think it's a Navian water heater on the left-hand side. When you do this, and what I like to show about how we do things when we work with our clients is neat and clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you see some cuts and debris on the floor. It's because we were doing some blocking and stuff. But if you actually look at the setup and you look at the product, it is installed very neat and clean. And manuals are with everything. You can see them up above the water heater there in the backside. We want to make it super easy for our customer to service these. But at the same extent, it's a reflection on you.
Yeah. And you know what? You said something that reminded me of something else we talked about on BS Fridays with Mark Willie was when you buy a car, it comes with a homeowner's or with a manual.
It does,
right?
Yeah. It really does.
And when you buy a home, it should come with a manual as well, a homeowner's guidebook, right? Talking about all of these systems, how they come together, when they need to be maintained, how to maintain them. So if you're out there, if you're any type of builder, definitely can. And if you're not doing it already, I know a lot of good builders who are doing this already. Think about what that handoff package is, for that home. How do you care for everything in that home? Because the more you care for the parts and pieces within your home, the longer it will care for you. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely. The easier you make it for a customer to do everything that needs to be done in the homes, the less headaches it'll be for you because they'll know exactly what to do, where to find it, how to do it. Right. So you do all this planning up front. But again, mechanicals. At the start of every project or after every set, this is where the trades and getting your rough in is so important. You need to get that stuff moving because you can't get your utilities hooked up until you have the roughs in place. So not going to bring your power to the house until your electrical is all roughed in and in place. So same thing with mechanicals, gas, and what have you. So plumbing, water line, sewer, well, whatever it's going to be.
And while we're talking about it, I mean, the amazing thing is everything's pre-drilled. Everything's worked through. You're really only pulling those wires. You're pulling things together where the modules come together.
100%. So, I mean, everything is rough stubbed through the ceiling and for the plumber in the basement, for instance, in this photo here, I mean, the lines are already in place. Mm-hmm. We're just connecting everything in the basement between floors if it's a 2-story or 3 or 4-story building, and then anything that would be in the attic or on the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. We have centralized chases. I mean, the way we design, we always try and have a centralized chase so we can center our mechanicals the best we can on the house to get the most energy efficiency out of it.
Yeah. And along those lines, again, we do a lot of work, and builders around here do a lot of work, coastal work, homes on piers, elevated homes.
Yep.
So something to keep in mind when you're doing that is where your plumbing drops are. Make sure you're planning for that. You're looking at this all on paper before the home comes.
Yeah.
So pay attention to where your plumbing drops, and like any good builder, check out, plumbing fixtures near exterior walls and how you're maintaining that, those fixtures underneath as well, if it's an elevated structure. So you can see here in this photo, if this home was on piers, you would have to come up with a different solution.
We would. In fact, we could probably find some photos of that here once we get to the end. I can show some homes on piers, but it's a completely different solution because, we're running plumbing between floors because it gets cold in the Northeast, especially up here. When you're on piers, we have to worry about freezing.
Exactly.
That's to include your drain lines can freeze up. You get a cold spell and the water drip in the toilets. It can all freeze up. There's certain things that would need to be done. So if you have more questions on that, you can just reach out to us and we can help you with that for sure. All right. More rough end stuff. So this is just a different basement, a different setup. In this particular, we used an engineer floor truss, an OJ system.
So, on here, we also have inspections. Dave, how are the inspections different here now that we're using modular construction versus mechanicals, if it's a traditional project?
So a lot of our rough ends already in, not our mechanicals on our HVAC and what have you. We're doing most of that on site, but what is in is all the wiring that's needed. That's already pre-wired to the location. We know where the mechanicals are going to be. If we have any stacks, like vent stacks going through the roof, through the sidewalls, we have most of that already planned out. Also, we have all of our duct work as far as not the ducts itself, but the boots and registers. Mm-hmm. We already have them pre-installed, pre-cut in. We spent a lot of time with our HVAC contractor, by the way, who is the best. If you need somebody, I can recommend you. He does a lot of design work for modular construction. Mm-hmm. If you want them to install it in the Northeast. So we design all this stuff and get as much of it done as we can. When it comes to other mechanicals, such as plumbing and electric, it's already roughed in. Everything's there. And, it's just really just got to pull it all together, do your home runs, and in the basement, run all your plumbing and water lines.
Yeah. Good stuff. And this is what we're looking for, right? We're 100%. Looking for power.
We are. Let me go back over here.
Yeah. So obviously in sequencing things, getting that power turned on, especially here in the Northeast, for us, it's really important before we start doing some of that major interior work, especially for builders who are installing floors and everything on site. Definitely want to make sure that power is turned on and that your house is temperature controlled.
100% temperature controlled. You want to have all your insulation in. You obviously want to be watertight. This is ready to be 100% fired up. You can see on this left side over against this left wall here. Not only do we have our 200 amp sub panel, we have backup generators on this house and some other things. The center photo is a tankless water heater. There's actually several of them in this home because of the size of the house. And then again, this is just another example of a furnace. This is a train unit that we like to use with our customers when we're doing a forced air system. Yeah. But we do a geothermal. You can do anything you want in these homes. It just all comes down to budget.
Right.
And the efficiencies.
Absolutely. I love these photos because it also gives you a peek at the interior of a Superior Walls foundation.
It is Superior Walls.
Yeah, this home is actually done for a client in an area that has a very high water table, unpredictable. And this client, it's funny, we actually built 2 homes for this person, both exactly the same home. And she was a big fan of Superior Walls and has a beautiful finished basement in both homes.
Yeah, she does.
And really just a great system. There's nothing like having that precast concrete with a modular structure on top. Really makes for a nice energy efficient home.
It really does. It really, really, truly does. I'm a big fan of Superior Walls. I've said it 100 times over. They don't pay me to say that. I've done a ton of these systems. but it's only as good as the installation.
Absolutely.
Most of the failures that are going to come out of it's like anything else. There was a poor installation on your excavation, your subgrade work, and something went awry there. But these basements are dry.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Cruising through today. Exterior mechanicals. What do you mean? We don't put mechanicals on the exterior of the house, Jennifer? Do we?
No, we don't, but there's still work to be done on the exterior of the home to make sure that your mechanicals are fully set up and able to move efficiently in terms of the installation. So what needs to be done on the outside quickly to make sure that you can get working on the inside quickly?
So the first thing that we do right away is we get all of our blocking in for where the power is coming to the house, for the panel box, for where our plumbing lines are all coming in. Depends on what you're using. If you're using a regular siding material like a vinyl, well, it's a little simpler. If you're using a Nishiha product or a James Hardie product, AZEK, and you got to get your blocking, we try and get all that blocking up. Now, Dave, why do you do that?
Right.
That's what everybody's going to ask. Speed. Here's the thing. So if you're doing siding on any structure, we want to make sure we have all of our porches, decks, ledger boards, porticos, whatever the case is, installed. So when that siding crew comes, they can just work, they can do all their flashing around it and be done. But the reality of it is they really can't do all of that, right away, because maybe there's a built-on structure like a garage, a site-built garage, or the covered porch, or 3-season room. So those things don't happen overnight, but we need power, we need gas, we need all those things to keep this thing moving fast, because that's the biggest delay on most projects that are out there. So if we get all of our blocking, get all of our light blocks up, then the electrician can come and get all that stuff wired in. And it doesn't matter if the siding crew comes first, second, or third. It makes a whole lot of sense. Hop on the blocking and the setup for that right away.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why when you're talking about sequencing, when you're planning, when you're putting that Gantt chart or a calendar together, you may not get to the entire house, but you want those crews there and you want that finished. And especially when it comes to owner participation, if there are some things, so if there is an owner who is acting as their own GC, and there are some modular builders out there who allow that to varying degrees, just understand which pieces and parts need to go together. So if the homeowner is taking on building the decks or building those on-site structures, make sure they understand the importance of this and getting that siding and getting that ledger board and everything else. And you may also consider that it's a take-all. If they are doing those on-site structures, you may want to consider that they also have to be responsible for the exterior cladding.
100. So I don't even think it's a must. And in our world, and the way I would tell anybody to do it, because sometimes people want to piecemeal. Well, you do the porch, I'll do the deck. Customer will do this, save money, which is fine, but tie all the liability to the one thing, right? They're going to do the deck with a ledger board and a roof over it. Well, then say, well, here's the siding crew. You hire them as well.
Exactly.
Then there's no finger pointing when there's a leak on it. Same thing with seamless gutters. I don't understand. Like for us, there's not enough money to be made in putting seamless gutters on for us as a trade. So we always just let the customer hire them directly.
Yeah.
It's just little things like that, because not that you don't want to warranty your work or stand behind your work. It's not that. It's just, one, it saves the customer money. Two, if they want it, they can have it. If they don't, we do so many homes out here without gutters, but it's on the beach, it drains. There's just little things. It's a weird,
funny thing. When we relocated to New England, it was one of the funniest things that we noticed. You know?
People just didn't have, they didn't go to all the work of the gutters and everything else that normally you traditionally do everywhere. For sure. So some other things that we have to keep in mind, right? We want to get all of those blockings in place, have the trenches and everything ready for the utility company. A lot of times the utility companies won't even come and say hello to you, right? Until you have a structure there. Then that's when the clock ticks. They can say, hey, we'll be out tomorrow. Or they're going to say, hey, we'll see you in 2 months. Right. And then you got a lot of this going on. So hopefully you had your temporary power hooked up and you're not having to wait for that to keep moving, because there's still ways around it. But the reality of it is, as the interior mechanicals and everything are getting roughed in and you're getting ready for your roughing inspections, you need to make sure this outside stuff is also happening, such as the trenching, get everything prepped for the utility company so they can also come out. And you can also, you can get your rough inspections on the trenching and everything for your utility company. So let's try and simultaneously do these things together. It's going to speed things up if you can make that happen.
Yeah. And again, from a planning process perspective, you really need to understand whether or not that power is coming in overhead or underground.
That's right.
You've already had all of these conversations. Everything should be ticked and tied, but be on the lookout for certain things, because it has happened where you know exactly where the power is going to and where the power is coming from. And, you know, invariably somebody gets on site and they say, can't do that.
Not working.
Yeah, we need a new pole, or this pole doesn't work, or the clients change their mind and say, no, I really want the power source over here coming into the house. So do all of this on paper, get the client to approve and authorize, what's happening there. But always be on the lookout for a change.
Yeah, it's funny. Business is easy until people get involved. I mean, it always looks simple and easy on paper, but there are those things. I mean, years ago we had a customer. We met with the utility. We went through the entire process, and the next thing you know, the utility company came out, said, "Oh yeah, we're going to go here." Got the house there a few months later, and all of a sudden, no, we need to put a pole in. You're like, really? From over there? But you know what? Now we have quick disconnects and all these other things we had to added, thousands of dollars to the customer, and it's out of your control. But these things happen.
So a lot of these stories are rooted in residential construction. Obviously, commercial, it is a different story, but there are headaches there as well. It's just like anything else. It's all about the planning, the conversations, the confirmation, confirm, reconfirm, and then you're on your way.
100%. All right. Is that it?
Yeah. So
yes,
I know
that was a good day.
Fast and furious, because we had expected a bunch of comments and questions, and sure enough, there's a conversation going on.
Yeah.
So before we get into that next slide, we may just want to talk about what everyone else is talking about. So should we start with our shout outs?
Yeah, let's go. You have at it. What do we got? Yeah, who's there?
I know, right? So it looks like we have John Magnan on with us. Always a big
Hey, John.
fan.
What's up, man? I was just talking to somebody that knew you.
That's always fun.
It is always fun. So
yeah.
What's happening, man?
Jerry McCullough, always good to have her on. We have Alistair Sawyer. So thank you for joining, and we've got some questions there. And who else do we have on today? Brent, is it Musson, Real Estate Development? Tom McManus. So yeah, there's definitely, and Mark Woolley, of course, our dear friend. Thank you for joining as always. As always.
So Daniel Benaldi on Facebook, Chris Petrick, Jennifer Barry Dean. What's happening, Jennifer? So listen, I mean, this series is going to continue running. We always appreciate when people are joining the conversation. How does that pop up like that? That's pretty cool.
I know, right?
Things are always constantly changing. But with mechanicals, this is the time to ask the question. This is the hardest part to get through for most offsite construction people. They wait till the last minute. They don't pre-plan for it. It kicks them in the butt fast and hard. And you soon learn that those change orders are not going to be passed on to the customer, but to you if you don't really understand this process fully.
Right. And, Dave, you said last week or the week before, I can't remember, an education costs money. If this is your first time, if this is your second time, there will be some hiccups. I mean, that's true of any new endeavor, right? Have you ever baked a souffle and it came out perfectly on the first try?
Nope.
I know I haven't. Not sure about this crap. Maybe that's not the right analogy.
Souffle.
I know, right? But anyway, this is where the checklists come into play. This is learning by doing. This is hands-on experience. And that's why we're trying to create this series and this conversation, to really share some of the stories that we've bumped into so that you don't have to bump into them.
I'm seeing some more comments come through. Great content, really good. Thank you. Great webinar, Team Cooper. Thank you. Once had a perspective. This is Craig Carter, Advancing Building Methods. Once had a prospect client ask if they can install the windows for their new site built home. They were looking to save money. Don't think so. Who is liable when it leaks? Anyways, walked away from the opportunity and liability. So that's exactly what we were talking about in regards to the liability. And that's a very, very good, Craig. I mean, it was perfect for what we were just talking about. That's why when we have a customer who wants to do anything that has to do with the weather tight structure of the house, give you an idea, like windows, porches, patios, decks, anything that attaches or keeps weather out of the house, then we put all the weatherproofing on the customer. That is what we do. We put it all on the customer. So, hey, that's fine. You want to do your windows? You can make sure you're responsible to make sure the Tyvek rep, is complete. The weather shields are done, and your siding is done. We put all of that on the customer for that exact reason. Yeah. I'll give you just for interior real quick, since we'll be doing that next week. A lot of times a customer says, "Hey, Dave." I go, "What?" They say they want to do the flooring because we can save money. I can do my hardwood floorings for $8 a square foot. You're charging me $10. Okay. Perfect. You can do the hardwood floorings, but now you're also doing all the finish trim, all the quarter round. You're patching the walls where they hit it with the hammer going through, and you're doing all the touch-up paint. It's all yours, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, to include the tile, because we're not going to mix and match who does flooring. So these are just things that I think are very, very important. And I know there's my soapbox again. But they're all valuable lessons because they just come back and get you. So to me, it's always like skydiving, right? When people want to take on their own work, you got to have that red piece of paper that says, yes, if you jump out of this plane, you can die, and here's all your responsibilities. Please sign everything over to you.
I think I like the souffle analogy better, quite honestly, than jumping out of a plane. Well, it's true. You have to pack your own parachute. Right?
Yeah, you do. You do. And only experience tells you these things when you've done it so many times. If you're a custom builder. And in the commercial world, when we do our commercial projects, it's typically solo, Numano. They don't want, they already know this. It's turnkey. So if you're doing hotels and we're doing commercial construction, normally they're hiring us directly, and that's the end of it. And we manage everything, which is nice. But in the custom world of modular, this happens a lot.
Yeah. And it's funny in terms of that sequencing, there's a couple of questions out there around Gantt charts. We do have these Gantt charts that show how this all goes together. And then you can show your critical paths on the Gantt chart. What we like to do is sit down when a customer wants to take on some work. We look at those critical paths on a Gantt chart, and that's kind of how we come up with our take all. So if there's a critical path where one thing relies on the next or one thing touches another, that's one way we can figure out those things that the client should take on completely or not take on at all. So that's just a tip for anybody in construction. And, it's pretty obvious to most people who've been doing this a long time, but there are some new people who are just getting into this. So want to help those folks too.
Sure. Craig was asking about checklists you've created. Would we be able to share some of the checklists if we connect offline? So here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, we have them, but it depends on what your business is. So here's what I say, Craig, send me a message. Let's have a conversation. And sure. There's definitely things we can help you with, help you understand. And I think once we understand your business a little bit better, then absolutely, we can definitely share some of those things with you.
Yeah. Definitely. And there's also some questions out there in terms of hard costs and what really is the savings and how do you compare the value that you gain versus the savings in terms of time and money. There's somebody that we're talking to right now. He has this really wonderful analogy that he uses. And this is what Mark Willey does all the time. So I'm taking a page from his book.
Mark Willey guy pops up a lot.
I know. So answering questions with an analogy. In construction, in building, it is so hard to get an apples to apples answer because no two builders are designing and building the same exact home.
That's right.
We get this all the time from clients who are shopping around price. Well, this builder is saying this much, it's the same size home, it's the same style, but do you really know what's in that home down to every last piece of lumber, every screw, every nail? You really don't. So we're not comparing apples to apples. What we're comparing is fruit basket to fruit basket. And one might have apples and oranges and the other might have bananas and grapes. But at the end of the day, they're both beautiful, delicious fruit baskets. It's the composition of them that are just not exactly the same. So when you're talking about cost savings and what those things are, it is very hard to quantify, but what you can very easily quantify is time. And this is borrowing from Jerry McCaughey from Integra. where he has done the math and he knows exactly how much every single day on site costs him. So if you are building traditionally on site and your build cycle is, let's call it, 10 days, and you're building offsite and your build cycle is 6 days, well, that 4-day difference has a hard cost, because if you know what your on the job cost is day to day,
Yep.
and you multiply that the time that you're saving, that's how you come up with the cost savings. It's a very easy formula, but not a lot of builders know how to do that.
They do not. They do not. I mean, time is money. That's kind of what you're saying. And the value of understanding how you pull those numbers together is a simple formula, but I think we make things complicated. That's what we do.
We do.
100%. So everybody, I know I was kind of messing around there. I put a calendar link on the in the feed there. So if anybody wanted to schedule some time to talk about our processes and what we are doing, we would love to talk to you and touch base with you and all that and help you as much as we can help you, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of this is to have this conversation, to be open, to share information. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't mean we're going to give you a Rolodex book of, all the years and years and years of what we put out there, but we're definitely going to help you and help you understand and try and help you to not make mistakes and grow. Maybe we should just put it on.
Well, it's funny because there are some
builders. Gary Vee approach.
Yeah, and there are some builders that we have done this for remotely and on site, where we have gone in and taken a couple of days and really just had this conversation with them and their team, looking at their process and looking at their way of doing things, because again, everybody is different. And it's always fun. It's always fun. And so much of what we have shared with these other builders, they in return have taught us, we've learned from, and we've incorporated all of these analogies, all of these stories, all of these learns into this presentation. So, that's been a real fun thing that we've been able to do for other builders. Yeah,
it really is. Reach out to us. Let's see. I mean, this is new for us, with everything we're doing. And we decided, hey, we're just going to hop on here, and why keep it a trade secret? We can grow. Let's make this happen. So we appreciate everybody for joining, and we'll do whatever we can to help everybody else. So, hey, Melissa Lacker joined, Lori Hatch joined, Christine Ruskin Gravelin joined. I know. I mean, hey, Melissa's in Germany.
And we have some people, I think, in New Zealand,
Vietnam, and Singapore. So it's a lot of fun. So if you're joining us, we're about the end of our show, but we are mainly been on LinkedIn for quite a few months. We are now on Facebook. So thank you, Facebook and YouTube as well. Just trying to grow our audience, try and grow our reach, and trying to explain to everybody that offsite construction is the way forward. And it's going to help solve the affordable housing crisis that we are all currently going through. And it's a big problem for us.
Well, there's really two things. There's two conversations there. And we have no shortage of things to talk about. I realize every time we're on, but there's housing affordability and there's housing attainability. And depending on who you speak to, those words are interchangeable, but they're really not. Housing affordability is a very real critical state in the nation. Housing attainability is something a little bit different.
Right.
And it's okay to use one or the other. It's just hard when people start mixing up those terms, and they're, again, it's not apples to apples, it's fruit basket to fruit basket. But either way, we think modular construction, we think offsite construction can help solve both of those things, because again, going back to time is money. The bigger the project, the longer your construction cycle, the more time that you have an opportunity to save. So if you're building a 4-module structure or a 100-module structure, it just compounds over the size and length and duration of the project. So we're super excited to be part of this conversation. And there's a lot of folks doing a great job.
Lots of folks out there. There's a lot of folks doing a great job in this industry already. I mean, you got Ken Semler from Impressa Modular. You have Von Buckley. I mean, if you really just think about all the people that are doing Splash Modular, I mean, there's all these people that are really engaged in doing this. So I think, do we have a couple more questions, and then we're going to kind of close out here.
These are talking about costs. And then there's some questions. Are you building in wood or steel? And what the cost and value relationship is there. Obviously, that all comes into play.
Yeah. So if you're asking what the cost difference is between wood and steel, I couldn't answer that directly. I believe that, we traditionally have done mostly wood-based construction. But I mean, as of recent, I mean, we've been a part of a ton of steel-based construction that's going on. So I think there's a shift to it. I think as the technology is kind of caught up with the machinery that can print out the steel, such as Howick, you know, Tom Reddy and Tom Reed, and Synergy Steel. I mean, they're doing a fabulous job at this stuff, using the steel for their panelization and offsite construction. And they're not only just doing walls, they're doing floor cassettes, ceiling cassettes. Everything's pre-drilled for MEP, so all that stuff's on there as well. What else do we have here?
I think we got it all. I think, yeah.
Perfect.
We do have a couple more slides just talking to what is up next. Next week, we'll be talking about getting inside the home, interior and exterior finishes, more than just the MEPs.
Yeah.
And one thing that we like to speak of is the importance of stairs. And again, some of this information is for folks new to construction. A lot of you have been in the business a very long time, but we're seeing that there are some folks who are looking for a change in their lives and tuning in and watching. So just want to make sure we get that low-hanging fruit in there for them.
Absolutely. And then here's just another construction process timeline to kind of drive it home for everybody. You can see in the modular schedule where the savings is, and that savings is up here in that far left. I'm pointing like you can see where I'm pointing. It's a pretty big time factor. So just keep that in mind. Tomorrow.